Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the January meeting of the Town of Philipstown Conservation Board. What I'd like to start with is Jessica Kimelman, 186 Avery Road.
Good afternoon, evening. Quick summary, I was here in November, and then December, a bunch of you came out for the site visit, and we had a good discussion about the impact of the project on the stream. Since then, we made a revised submission, which really focused on some of the comments from the last meeting. Some items that were included were basically a more to scale version of the proposed structure, which is roughly 40 by 4.5 feet. We also included some details of what the footings would look like, a version of what they could look like, and also a construction sequence that's really focusing on the point that no aspects of the stream are going to be really impacted because the construction work is going to be beyond the banks of the stream, and that the stream will be protected at a high priority. And then lastly, I also submitted basically an email from the DEC that I had mentioned at the last meeting that said that from their perspective, it's not a regulated DEC stream. So those are the things that we had resubmitted, and open it up to any comments. I don't think there were any significant comments at the site visit, but
So, has everybody looked at the plans? Most of us were at the site visit. Not everybody, though. Do we have any comments, questions, modifications?
I'm okay with it.
What's that?
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty minor. It should be an improvement to what's been there. Right?
yeah, the major talking points are the existing bridge is an impediment. We're going to take it out and put a bridge that's much higher and not an impediment in the future, and it's not going to impact the stream at all during the construction because we're going to be beyond the boundaries of the feature.
Max, are there any particular conditions you want to see on the permit? I mean, this is very, very straightforward.
Not really. I think I was just reading the construction sequencing. I think the biggest question that a lot of us had were, how you're gonna be digging the footings on the opposite side of the stream. So I was just reading through that now. I don't know if you wanna update the board. Maybe you could just walk us through on, installation of erosion control, what kind of erosion control, and then go through what you have noted here on the plan.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to use a machine on this side. The other side, most realistically, it will be hand dug. Erosion control features would be like a soil stockpile area that is bounded with erosion controlled netting or mats, and then a silt fence basically that's outlined. There's an entire erosion control note section on the second sheet, but a silt fence that basically skirts the boundary of the stream on both sides so that any disturbed, machinery, equipment is not silting into the embankments during any rain events during the project. I think realistically the construction is going to take like a week and a half maybe. It's not going to be a long period of time. And so those are the two main erosion control features. And then after we're finished, quickly seeding and hanging the disturbed features.
And the surface of the bridge is gonna be wooden decking or what?
Yeah, just wood decking.
Okay. And so all of that will be cut and then placed and installed? So there's no real concern that anything would fall into the water course?
Not at all.
Okay.
And what happens with the old material?
We'll just haul it off site.
You mean the old bridge?
No, it's
something.
Yeah.
Are you constructing the deck of the bridge first and then bringing it on site, or are you?
No, we'll probably put the footings in, put a girder, and then put the deck on top of the girder. And
Lay
then
planks,
put
yeah.
railings and like steps towards the end.
What's the material you're using?
The bridge is gonna be a steel girder,
Yeah.
probably an arch steel girder, and the decking is probably gonna be standard, like pressure treated decking.
Pressure treated.
I have no concerns, really.
I think we're fine. Everybody fine? All right. Can I have a motion to grant a permit?
I'll make the motion.
Second. All in favor?
Fantastic, thank you so much.
So we'll issue you a wetlands permit, and then you'll have to go to the building department to get a construction permit, so you can get the CO and all that. Okay.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming in. Let's go to Timber Ridge, 346 Indian Brook Road.
How's everybody doing? Not sure where our engineer is, but we should be able to cover the main issue here, which would be the span of the bridge. Max, I know you were able to make it out there, and if you could just tell us maybe some feedback, what you thought about the dimensions.
Yeah, I think the ultimate goal of 20 feet might be a little bit too constrained there. The stream's flowing now. I don't know if you guys have been up there today or not, but I think our goal with setting back where your footings would be from the banks of that stream would really help as a mitigation effort in this case to kind of help, allow the roadway to look more naturalized, in my opinion, and protect that, intermittent water course kind of in a more subtle way, especially during construction. My concern really would be that during construction, you'll have this precast structure and you'll have to just dig down into the banks itself and then refill it. And, I don't really know where that leads us. That was really my only concern. I just want to bring up, I guess, too, the other main point that we had talked about at the last meeting was the site plan and having that be combined with be provided to the board as one
map.
One map. I don't know if that was accomplished over the last month.
Well, we did some research since last, and apparently the bridge is modular, so we can, it's to spec, so we can do 25 feet. And we want to do a little bit bigger buffer, so we don't. Sure. Upon doing some research, our engineer found out that we can do it to spec, whatever size we need. So if it needs to be, if you think 20 is a little bit shy, we can do 25. Just so the margins, you have a little buffer there.
Yeah, I think we should go out and actually pin flag it in. And, I have rough measurements, but I don't necessarily know what the
Yeah,
construction
we could do
sequencing is.
25, we could do 26, whatever you think is sufficient, but it's the spec, so we can make that happen, so we don't, disturb anything.
Yeah. It's
You know.
custom cast based on required dimensions, so whatever
Yeah.
measurement you tell us is sufficient, that's what we could move forward with.
Yeah, and what the engineer last week was, it was a little bit of a miscommunication. He meant to say 10 feet wide, 20 feet long. That was his starting point.
Right, yeah.
It just got a little, when we were downstairs, we were talking about it, but
Yeah.
it's too late to come back up. But,
Yeah.
so,
No, I understood that when you emailed me.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. I think that you guys had required one site plan, right? That combined all activities regarding the new SSTS and, the second phasing of the project. We wanted to see that all in one plan. I don't know if that would make you all bump the meeting out another month, or this could be a conditional permit
I mean,
vote tonight, or?
could get that to you right away. If you can give us a condition, if he would consider it, we get that right away. He may even have it done. I don't know what happened to Mike tonight.
Yeah.
I hope he's all right. He knew about it, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of our biggest concerns was with the new roadway that you're building, whether we want to call it a water course or a drainage area, was to leave that intact as
Yeah.
much as possible. So what my concern with a precast, I'm not against it, but my concern with a precast is you have a side-to-side slope. So how much digging is going to be necessary with a precast versus if you were using a beam construction?
Yeah, I
So
don't think
that's-
the elevation
that's-
is too much there, but,
It's probably still a good 10 or 15% minimum. So I think what we want to do is avoid more digging than is necessary.
I know when Steve Marino came out there, he actually suggested that a precast structure would be, with an open bottom culvert, would be the best solution for that particular scenario, but again.
That was his suggestion.
Yeah, it's a typical thing that we'd like to see. This achieves the same result and gives us also a little bit more protection by kind of making it that custom span. So it's the same, like environmentally, it's the same effect as an open bottom culvert, because you're keeping the naturalized bottom either way. We're just looking at more protecting the banks and that whole kind of corridor there to be a little bit more gentle on the landscape.
Yeah, I just think the cost is gonna probably be a lot more, right, with a steel girder type. But are you suggesting a steel girder?
I think
Or you think, what about a longer precast?
Just oversize it even more.
Oversize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if there's concerns about precast, anything precast, I think we would just take a closer look at it once we finalize
Yeah.
dimensions, and then we can talk to your engineer about digging depths and all those things. And
Yeah, okay.
yeah, I don't think financial burden is what we're looking to put on this. It's more of a how it'll work with the site. Yeah, yeah. But like I said, I think that another big component of this was that site plan, that we could see everything laid out.
But we're still talking about 2 permits.
Right.
Yes.
But they're applying for one in this discussion.
We're gonna do it at the same time. I mean, the two thing, maybe was confusing, but, one project, we don't
There'll be
intend to
one
drag
site
it on.
plan with 2 permits.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So I'm good with that.
Yeah, so, I mean, at this point, I guess we're really waiting for a final set of drawings.
Right. Yeah.
Right, I mean, when are you hoping to begin construction, if everything goes
We're
well?
hoping, as soon as possible. We'd like to commence right away if we could, weather permitting.
So then I would suggest getting your engineer to put together plans and submitting it to us as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Right?
Can we do a conditional permit based upon us getting the plans?
We could, but I still
No.
think there's a few,
We should get the
yeah,
plans.
it's, as I said, I'm concerned about the side-to-side slope, that not the forward, backward slope, that the driveway is transversing, and I want to see how much material.
What would be the alternative, do you think?
Well, the alternative would be you're using some type of steel span or,
A couple of abutments
right.
further out?
You know, I mean, the other alternatives, which you don't want to do, and we totally understand it, is having an existing stream crossing where it originally was going to the first house, and then getting a waiver from the zoning board of appeals for a driveway that's somewhat steeper to the second building. And I can understand why you don't want to do that.
It just gets very wet down there with that stream.
You know, the other alternative too, but I don't think it's necessarily realistic, is getting a right-of-way from your neighbor. But that, we also understand that, and we're still dealing once more with a drive going to the second building, the barn, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That would require a waiver from the zoning
But
board.
we're open to whatever structure you think is right. Whatever you think is right. I mean, we're not pushing the precast. If you think the other build is better, then we'll go that route. Just
So
as long as we have the proper span and the margins, right?
For now, I'll have Mike condense it, put it on one site plan, and we'll reflect maybe a 25-foot span.
I think if we can,
For
if
now.
I can meet with Mike or whoever out there,
Okay.
and we can just hash it out and
Yeah.
lay it all out, and if you can even get a cost comparison, I think that would be helpful.
I mean,
You
it's
know?
why we want to do it right. So whatever you think is necessary, we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
What are you waiting on the second permit?
What's that?
What are we waiting on for the second permit?
I think the main house, there was nothing really holding it up other than it being tied to coming to a resolution with the drive for the barn.
And there was an expansion of the footprint by a very short amount, or small amount.
Which the house is within a water course buffer.
So at future meetings, you could do both permits in the same meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll get that together, we'll coordinate, get you out there, and
Yeah,
next meeting, we should be good to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's plan for the next meeting to be ready to have a permit that we can either grant or at worst a conditional permit.
Very good.
yeah, I mean, I'm available, for email, whatever, so if you guys just want to coordinate something, we'll figure it out.
Very good.
Yeah.
I'll reach out next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Okay,
It's too bad he couldn't show up.
I agree. Okay, we have two planning board referrals. Let's, is there somebody here for Corbett? Margaret, you doing both of them?
Well, actually, the Depot Theater is no longer a project, so we're not gonna pursue that.
Okay.
It's no longer your project, or it's just not happening?
It's not happening at that site.
All right, that streamlines things a little bit.
Yeah, so we only have a lot line adjustment to discuss.
So, yes, if you could explain it, because the materials that we got are not amazingly clear.
So this is the existing condition. There are two lots. One is this 5-acre parcel, and the other is this large parcel. It's much larger than the other. It's like, yeah, here we go. It's about 28 acres. So this is about a 28-acre parcel and 5-acre parcel. There's an existing house on this parcel, and there's no construction on this parcel. Well, this parcel was part of a subdivision, so it has potential for a septic because it was approved in a subdivision. The same person owns both of these parcels, and she would like to rearrange the lots so that they're more evenly divided. So this parcel would lose this portion, and this portion would get put in with the 5 acres, and we'd end up with a 12-acre parcel and a 20-acre parcel. There's no construction, there's nothing proposed to be done to the site. There's just,
But I'm assuming at some point, they have in mind that they would want to be able to have it as a buildable lot, lack of a better term for it.
it is a buildable lot. It is already a buildable lot.
Okay.
All we're doing is transferring some property from one parcel to the other parcel.
That's what I thought. That's why I was unclear of why this was referred to us from the
I
planning board.
think they just like you guys so much, they're referring all the projects to you.
Where's East Mountain Road on that? The road that goes up to the beginning of the driveway, where is that?
This is East Mountain Road North, and this is Farm Road.
Okay, all right, I see, thank you.
So there's no construction proposed, there's no driveway proposed, there's nothing proposed.
It says in.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it says in the letter from the planning board that a new residence is proposed for this new larger parcel?
Oh, well, it has to be shown because you have to show a parcel. You have to show where a building could be built.
Okay.
But they're not planning to construct it.
The owners aren't planning to do this,
No.
but they're making it ready for potential.
It already is ready for potential because this is the 5-acre parcel that is already a buildable lot within the town. It
Right.
went through
It
a
meets the
planning board
criteria.
process. It meets all the criteria. You could build a house there.
Gotcha.
You could build a house there tomorrow. They would like to add this property to that parcel.
So when was the approval for the building lot done? Do you have any idea?
There may be an indication of when the subdivision.
And because we didn't get a set, a full-scale plan, it was very hard to look at. I know that Cheryl had shared with me an electronic version, and I was trying to look at it to see, are we dealing with any problematic steep slope or wetland issues. I didn't really see that, but as I said, vis-a-vis the detail on the plans, it was hard to tell.
Right, so the lighter gray is is the 15.
Right.
So driveways are allowed across that. You know, so there's nothing being shown that would.
So you want to point out,
push,
and this is
yeah.
hypotheticals, where the house site would be and the
This
septic
is where
system.
this is where it's shown as proposed. This is where it's shown as the approved septic areas. It's flat.
Okay.
And where are the flagged, the regulated, the regulated areas that are called out?
These are flagged, and there are these are the 100-foot setbacks.
So it's
So they're,
fairly
you know,
close.
it's all, nothing is proposed within the wetland boundaries, nothing is proposed on the steep slopes.
I think we should take a look at it.
All right, so then we should, I don't think there's any issues, but I think we should do a site visit.
Yeah, I would like, I mean, it looks like your septic area may be close to 100, in between two 100-foot setbacks there. So I
And
would
this
be,
is a 60-foot scale. It's,
yeah, I mean, but at time, I mean, we've gone through this before on different applications where the delineations were done, and and on our site visits, we've noticed, you know, some discrepancies that could be changed and updated to the plan.
again, nothing is, they're not proposing to build anything. We're
Well,
not,
I think in the memo from the planning board, that's specifically called out as something that brought this to us as a
Okay.
concern.
if you want to do a site visit,
I think we should do a
sure, we can
site
do a
visit,
site
and I
visit.
think that certainly the septic field, four corners should be marked.
Okay.
Ideally that, I'm assuming we're north, so it would be roughly the western edge. The small western edge of the wetland buffer should also be marked as best as possible.
and you
It's it would be the
want
western.
this
Yep.
and this?
Yeah, I guess the eastern too, if we are, because there we're dealing with what, an intermittent water course.
Yeah, I mean, even the proposed driveway goes through a buffer it's shown on your plan by the road, so.
I mean, we're in a sort of strange situation because, while a lot line does require planning board approval, right now they're not planning to build anything.
Right.
But I think that the due
And if it
diligence.
were like a smaller portion of the property that was being moved, we wouldn't even go before the board. But it's more than like 10%
But I
of the
want to be
property.
in a I think, Max, I think you feel the same way. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
We're not creating a lot.
But well, you are creating.
No,
Well,
we
no,
are
but you're
not creating
you're
a
changing.
lot. We're not creating a lot. We're only transferring some property
Let us
from
do
one lot
our due diligence
another lot.
and make
Right.
sure that when this, in the future, it'll help the homeowner ultimately. You know, if any development does happen on the parcel, they'll be even more informed moving forward that, you know, we came out and we clarified any of these types of questions.
Sure.
I mean, I'd like to get the input from the board because I see both sides of the argument. One side of the argument is we have an existing lot that's there right now. So if somebody wanted to build on it, pretty much unless it was completely egregious, they would have to be able to build a house and a septic system. What's happening here is they're expanding more area, but it's not really changing where the house or the septic system would be. So, you know, I can understand both arguments. One is we should go to look at it to do our full due diligence. The other argument could be, and that's why I'd like input from everybody, whether we do a site visit or not, that in terms of the lot, we're not changing theoretically where a house or a septic system would go.
We are not.
We're not.
No.
I'm not arguing with you. So what's everybody's thoughts?
And
Is there strictly one driveway?
there are two existing lots. One has a house on it. The other is vacant. But it's a buildable lot. It was part of a subdivision. It has standing with the health department. It has standing with the town.
But one single entrance?
There is a common road here, and there's an existing driveway to the existing house. And if this house were ever built, it's shown that there would be a new driveway to that parcel. But again, if this parcel ever were be developed, it would be under the jurisdiction of the code of the town of Philipstown and the code of the Putnam County Health Department. That we're not doing anything that would change the standing of this lot to be built on. We're just giving it more property.
I'm not arguing with you. That's why I'm asking the board. This is one, I'm sitting on the fence. What's the best way to go?
I think that you're not gonna be doing any construction up there right away. So I think it'd be a good idea if we all came up, took a look, made any notes or anything like that that need to be done, and then then you could probably go on with it. Is that,
Is it all flagged out? Everything flagged?
You know, I don't know if I have to confess that Glenn Watson dropped this on me today. I have not really been involved with the project. I don't know if the planning board actually did a site walk, so if they did a site walk, we may have staked some things, but if we haven't, we can stake them for you if that's what you feel is necessary.
So thoughts, site visit or no?
100%.
Sure.
Okay. So we'll have to schedule a site visit.
Okay.
and you guys will flag it so we know what's going on when we get up there?
Yes.
Great.
All right. So, and that's the only one I have.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, two other, items. One is we had received on, I guess, December 19th, a letter from Amanda Vasta. This is in regards to Cliffside Court, the private road off of Upland Drive. We had put together a memo which was shared with everybody that went to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I believe we also went to the Planning Board with it. And I had spoken to Supervisor Van Tassel. Essentially, after a lot of time spent between myself and Max and talking to our town engineer, we're uncomfortable with the potential impact of what's being proposed on the site. And we really don't want to get into a situation of, well, one engineer, being the project engineer, says we can do this, and then the burden falls on the town engineer. Well, is it possible to do, and would it be safe? So our memo, if you remember, really goes into the point that the town, even though they formed the Upland Drive Development District, it's still not concise what should and should not be done. So, we have suggested that there is a meeting which would be at least one liaison from the three subordinate boards, somebody from the town board, probably town council, Ron Gaynor, and perhaps the building department, to let's be creative and figure out how are we going to go forward, because there are other lots there that have been bought, particularly in the auction that Putnam County held in the late fall. I think there needs to be a concise guidelines of what we can and cannot do. The Zoning Board of Appeals meeting that was supposed to happen earlier this month was canceled due to weather, and what was on their agenda is in this particular area, roughly you can disturb 10% of a lot, and if my memory serves me, I think it was 19.38% they wanted to disturb, and they wanted a variance. And I think before anything is granted, I think that everybody within the town should have a policy of what do we do here? Because many of us saw this particular lot, and while there were very little details on the plan shared with us, and the engineer did not show up to the site visit, I think that we're not particularly comfortable that this is doable in a responsible manner. So that's where we are with that. Okay, a new piece of business that Madeline Ray brought up that I think we should talk about and figure out how we might want to deal with it is Century Aggregates, a proposed concrete plant on Route 9, which isn't in Fishkill, but it will affect this town in terms of our aquifer as well as the Clove Creek. So Madeline, I think you're probably the most familiar with this, so.
Well, I read it in the paper and thought you all should know about it, wondering if there's something we can do. I know,
Microphone.
we have nothing to do with Fishkill, but I thought perhaps we could write a letter. I know Fishkill doesn't have a conservation board, but I thought if we could write a letter, sign off, perhaps send it to, CC it to our, other elected officials, the DEC maybe, some of that I now am not aware where it is in the process, but I do know it's before the planning board.
So would you be willing to take the lead? And I'm not familiar with Fishkill's town website to see what documents exist regarding this project.
Yeah, they post their
They
documents.
do, yeah. I have not looked at Fishkill because I think we should look at that.
Okay.
And then, the question becomes, what's the best way to handle this? And it might be a letter/memo from the Conservation Board to the Planning Board. I assume they're the lead agency on this project.
Yeah.
And I would assume it's a Class 1 action in CEQA.
It's adjacent to Clove Creek.
Right.
And do we have any responsibility with regard to downstream effects?
Well,
So-
it's our oversight. I mean, this is,
So it is.
That's-
So that's
Yeah.
what I mean, so we
Yeah.
have some standing.
yeah,
Okay.
it actually does go the other way.
Oh.
It is
Well,
going
it's
north.
So
It
it's-
is north.
It's not a downstream.
But it is
But
down
aquifer.
into the aquifer, yes. Yeah.
Okay. The plans, do you want me to just email you all when I get them, just separate from not having to go through Cheryl or something? I can just.
Yeah, I mean, I would CC Cheryl so she has it for the records.
Okay.
I think links are fine, and I think we should all look at this and be able to discuss it at the next meeting. I'm not sure when the Fishkill Planning Board is next looking at this project,
I'll look that up too.
right? And if they're holding a public hearing, and if we feel that this is really going to be grievous to the town, then it might make sense for somebody from this board to speak at their public hearing.
Okay.
It may make sense too for the board to write the memo directly to the supervisor and CC the town board.
Yeah, I agree.
But maybe that's a decision that can be discussed
Yeah.
between Andy and John before we send it out.
Yep.
And I was hoping the DEC or, one of the,
Yeah.
should know about it too.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Okay,
Final item?
yes, final item.
Okay. Do you want to announce it and then I'll say my bit?
Yes, so what we're going to have a very preliminary discussion on HHFT, the draft generic environmental impact statement. The town board has tasked the Conservation Board to review it and help them provide comments, because they do plan to comment on it, as well as they have hired a town planner to assist in the dealing with this, because the town planner that is used by this town happens to be working on HHFT as well. So, what I'd like us to focus on as we go through it, it is a sprawling document. Our input is not, how do I put it? Rather than looking at the project itself, and on the whole, we are going to have to look at the project itself, but it is really looking at this environmental impact statement and seeing what's lacking, what we need more information about, what are the significant impacts, both from an environmental standpoint as well as an impact on basically traffic, pedestrians, what's going to happen during construction, And the alternative that's presented, is that a rational or ideal alternative?
So before discussion ensues, I just want to state that I am employed by Hudson Highlands Fjord Trail, Inc., and I'm going to recuse myself from all discussions related to this topic.
Thank you. So, I mean, it's a sprawling document. You know, I spent part of the holidays predominantly looking at the 100-page plus executive summary. Max, I believe, delved more into the technical issues, including construction. Tony, I believe that you had looked at it in detail too. As well as, I believe, Madeline. I don't know who else has spent some time with it.
There's a lot of unanswered questions.
Right.
You know, one of them being, this has been going on for a long time. And it's already causing a lot of problems down there. Forget about the whole trail getting built in the river and all that. But right now, we have a lot of existing problems with litter, with trails getting destroyed, with too many people. And it causes a lot of problems, you know, especially with the litter. And more importantly, the bathroom thing. There's, you know, people go up these trails, and if you go up any of those trails and look for a secluded area, you can walk into that area, and there's piles of toilet paper and everything, and feces on the ground. You know, and also people, I did a little informal survey over the summer. 1 out of 10 people have a pet with them. And I don't, you know, so all that pet waste is up there as well. And they're not cleaning that up. You know, that's just a preliminary thing that's happening now. So if there's some way we could, we can't afford to do this stuff. I mean, the village and the town, we're already dumping a ton of resources up there now already. Now, I would like to see something done now to mitigate some of those problems, rather than waiting 10 years from now for this massive concrete, whatever they got proposed there. Now, that's just my thing, you know, and I got a lot of people that have come up and asked questions, and I just don't have the answers for them, you know, so I suggested that they write their things down and send them into the boards or make public comment about it. But this is the first we've seen of this in all the years it's been planning. So that's kind of where I'm at with this.
Max, you want to give some comments, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I think you should move on to yourself and the rest of the board members, and then.
Okay. I am troubled by two things, actually three. One is the potential environmental impact. There are forests, wetlands, communities that still exist, habitat communities that still exist, that will be affected. And while in percentages, you know, it might be 5%, it doesn't seem high, but when you look at acreage, it's significant. Mm-hmm. It's quite significant. I'm very troubled with the trail south of the tunnels, because it's basically a boardwalk being built into the river. And to me, it reminds me of, I guess it was planned in the 1980s, after they had torn down the west side, the upper west side, the lower west side highway in New York. There was Westway. And it was shut down by environmentalists because what it was doing to the edge of the river. You know, the other side argued, well, it's a waterfront that has been highly altered. Absolutely agreed. The railroad tracks came up here about 150 years ago. Is it 150? No, I think it's 175 years ago now. Yes, it radically altered the riverfront, but at a certain point, it adapts. So the question becomes, how do we deal with that? Personally, I'm not comfortable with the projections on traffic, both pedestrian and vehicle traffic, and how it's going to be handled. Within Beacon, I'm perhaps a little bit less concerned because it's a better infrastructure. You have 84, that's there. In terms of Philipstown, we have 9, but it's a 2-lane road. We have 9D, which is a 2-lane road that perhaps barely is a state road because it's a meandering road, and we have 301. The road cannot handle a tremendous amount of traffic. And the third is the time of construction, and particularly, again, I go back to the boardwalk, it requires a massive amount of construction, both happening from on the shore and from the shoreline. And I think that a lot more details need to be presented to make this viable. You know, is this something that is safe? Is this something that is doable? How it is for, let's say it takes, I'm going to say hypothetically 3 years to build the section, which would be the last section built, from the tunnel south to Cold Spring. That's going to be a major impact on the town. You know, it's a major, major construction site.
Well, sustainability too, after that.
Without a doubt. I'm also somebody who spends time on the river, whether kayaking or sailing. I'm very concerned about the look, if you will, from the river. Yes, again, I go back to 175 years ago. Well, the railroad causeway was built. But in time, it's sort of melded into the river. And in certain ways, it's actually helped the river. It's built certain marshes that wouldn't have been there. It has stopped a tremendous amount of housing from being built, because if we didn't have the railroad, there'd be houses wall to wall around the Hudson. So those are the issues that I have right off the bat. You know, as much as 709 pages sounds like it's long, this is a massive project, and I'm not sure that all the details are there. And it's basically going to be for our board to help the town formulate their response and their comments to this. Anybody else who's looked at this?
I've looked at it, and I agree with everything you've said, and share the same concerns about that, especially the trail. When I had some friends in from out of the country that are walking this trail, and it was completely trashed. And so I question who owns it if they're not taking care of it now. Who owns it? And if you look at, you know, Dockside, our little area, or the south of the trail, you know, who is going to take care of this? Who is going to own this going forward when you are having thousands and thousands of more people come in? I think that really needs to be addressed and is a major concern. The water, I found that the 8 to 10 toilets and the water that Cold Spring will have to perhaps take care of the water that goes to the toilet facilities at Dockside, and they say, oh, it's 10 to 8 toilets at 3,500 gallons a day, but they don't take into effect the gallons of water to wash your hands, or water for water fountains and things like that. So I would like to see just how much of a burden is this going to be on the village of Cold Spring. I believe they were in a water emergency, right? October, November, and December of this year. And to put that on, the village is asking a lot of the locals. I realized that these plans are for visitors, but there has to be some plans for the locals too, and how they address it, and how they can live with it, not how they can address it and live with it. I have the same thing about where are these people coming from? Are these plans of coming to Dockside because people are going to be coming from the train more than cars? That the numbers are concerning, that I just don't think that they're really quite right. And the construction, I live near the old Garrison golf course, which is, that construction site is a mess. And there are mounds and mounds of dirt and the wind comes and it blows it all the way to Snake Hill. There's dirt in people's homes that have gotten through, on their yards, in their gardens. And here's a huge construction site. You all should see this thing and how far they're digging down, and nobody secured these mountains of dirt. So what are they gonna do? They're talking about digging out soil. Where are they gonna put this soil? Where are they gonna put these mountains of soil? Are these barges that are coming in, are they gonna be filled up with the soil and taken off site? You're talking about Dockside Park. They talk about the construction vehicles that are coming. Are they going to be parked on Dockside while this whole thing is being dug up? You know, do you need the construction of going in and out and the parking? And it is a 5-year program according to their plan. It starts in 2026 and it ends in 31. And we know that it's a 5-year thing, and it's the last phase of the park, of the trail, the boardwalk, because it's a boardwalk. So this boardwalk is the last portion of this whole phase. So there is time to figure out, I think, how to find a middle ground, that it's not all one side and not all the other. You know, that there is a middle ground, I do believe, that we can achieve.
I got one other thing to add. At Dockside Park, the shoreline was pretty much destroyed when they reconfigured that. And one of the things I see down there is, like last winter, so much stuff, flotsam and jetsam, whatever you want to call it, ended up in there. I mean, cords and cords, piles of wood and tires and all the other stuff. And it was a lot of it was cleaned up by volunteers. But based upon what the experts said, they were going to redo this and put in plantings and everything else. Most all of the plantings washed away. We ended up with a big mess down there, you know, and because the shoreline was lowered. So I'm based upon what their experts said then and what we ended up with, that we had no say in the matter. I'm not really confident going forward of what the experts are saying for how they're going to build this other thing. I think it's just I don't think it's a good idea. That's all I'm going to say on that for now.
Yeah, I want to direct everybody, our focus should be, number one, predominantly the southern portion, which is basically the tunnel south, because that's what lies within Philipstown. Two is to make comments on the draft environmental impact statement versus the project itself. I mean, even though one can say, well, that's nomenclature, it's not totally nomenclature, because that is the way that the town is going to need to react, is to comment on the draft generic environmental impact statement. The third is, the philosophy of this board has always been not to say no necessarily. And we have a couple times had to say no, but it's how do we make this better for the environment, for the people of Philipstown. So I just want to let everybody know that, and we need to stay focused on that. Max, did you want to make some comments?
I don't have any preliminary comments right now on the project, but I think you and I had discussed, effectively making our communications, or the Conservation Board's communications to state parks as the lead agency. And I had suggested potentially setting up a committee within the board of those interested parties, so that we could get a broad perspective and a large, a more well-rounded analysis of what the town would be focused on and what comments we would want to provide by that March deadline. So I just want to bring that to the board's attention and kind of refresh the conversation that we had yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think that because it's such a sprawling document and project itself, that I think those of us that are interested in working on this, we should be picking areas to focus on, because I don't think it's realistic for one person to look at the entire document, even if you start cutting off the northern end. Though I don't think we can totally cut off the northern end because it is going to impact what happens south. You know, so there, I think more of the focus becomes more on traffic, again, both people and vehicle traffic with that. And as well as the town board has hired a planner, and I think that we should be interacting with them.
Yeah, and I think having that smaller committee, or maybe it ends up being most of the members on the conservation board, I think that would help direct their efforts. And hearing your concerns or whatever was taken note of tonight, they would be able to focus their efforts on delving into aspects of the plan that need to be looked into further to help answer or propose questions, effective questions.
Do we need to break down the sections so that we can see who spearheads each subsection of the impact statement? Or do we all just sort of?
No, I mean, I think, as I said, I had asked everybody, and it's long unto itself, is to look at the executive summary. Even if you cut the tables out, it's still over 100 pages. Now, a lot of that, just on the structure of any, not just a generic, but any draft environmental impact statement, it does repeat itself over and over again. I mean, that's just the design of the document. But I think that everybody, and hopefully everybody's willing to work on this. I think the next step, and Cheryl, I'm going to put this on your shoulders, is if we could, we'd have to make a public announcement, but if we could convene a meeting in the next 2 weeks with the higher town planners and discuss the best way to go about this.
Go about
Make
forming
a comment. Basically, we need to start putting together comments because basically we have, it's about 7 weeks, I believe. It's not a lot of time unless a further extension is granted, which anything is possible within that, but I don't think we can count on it.
Okay, let me ask you a question. So when I read it, I pretty much focused on the southern part of it, just because it affected us more than north. So when I go back through it, to pay attention to both the north and the south and take it collectively as one.
Cheryl, I'm going to make another request of you. Would you contact HHFT? I would like to be able to distribute an Adobe Acrobat PDF file that is completely text recognizable. Because what I did is I downloaded from their website the document, then went to do text recognition, but a lot of it is, it's not fully recognizable, unfortunately. And a document like that does exist. I think the corruption had to do with the fact you're putting it in one of the magazine formats, which is fine. It makes it easily readable for somebody that just wants to glance through the piece on a computer screen. But if somebody wants to make notes of it, to be able to pull sections out, it's difficult. I have an ultra-fast computer, and it probably took 6 or 7 hours to be able to text recognize and render it. And so it does exist. So we shouldn't have to do that, and it will make life much easier. So, I'm assuming most of the people sitting in the audience are here for this. This is not a public hearing at this time, but I don't have any problem with anybody who wants to address us. But I'd like it to focus on, if you, as best as you can, on a specific section within the draft generic environmental impact statement, rather than looking at the project as a whole right now. And if you can't do that right now, then I do encourage you, if you have comments, to send them to us. Yeah, I would say send them, you can get my email address, Cheryl's and Max's on the website, and then we'll distribute to everybody and figure out a way to collate this. So, come up and identify yourself. There's the microphone.
I know some of you board members. I'm Pete Salmonson. I'm an environmental educator. I've worked for Audubon, for state parks, for Hudson Highlands Land Trust, Constitution Marsh, etc. I'm also on the board of Putnam Highlands Audubon, but I'm speaking tonight as myself. The first topic I'd like to just briefly mention is wildlife. As you know, probably from reading the DGEIS, there are at least 15 state and federal listed species in the corridor between Beacon and Cold Spring. Some are federally endangered, such as the Indiana bat, the northern long-eared bat, the short-nosed sturgeon, the Atlantic sturgeon. Some are state endangered, like the golden eagle. And then there are some threatened species like timber rattlesnakes, eastern fence lizards. And then there are some species of special concern, such as the eastern box turtle, the New England cottontail, and the cerulean warbler, among others. I may have left a couple out. And it is the conservation view that, or I should say, since I'm a ecology guy, it's my view that there's going to be at least 55 acres of habitat destruction. I'm not sure how many in the southern part, so excuse me for saying that. And we don't know what the effect would be on wildlife with the cutting of trees, the clearing of feeder trails, and especially, I'd like to mention the potential expansion of the Washburn parking lot. I'm a trail steward for New York, New Jersey Trail Conference. I've been doing it for 5 or 6 years. I'm down at the Washburn Trail frequently. I work with Evan Thompson and the other folks. And I've seen, like 2,000 hikers a day during the prime periods. However, just in terms of wildlife, on the east-facing side of that parking lot, there are species of special concern, the cerulean warbler. And they do not nest in Westchester. I do not know how many other places they nest in Putnam. Maybe Max or Lou or Scott might know. But they are a prized species because they're so beautiful, and they come all the way from South and Central America. So we believe that there are about 6 pair nesting in trees on the east side of the lot. Somehow they've been able to adjust to the folks who come to the parking lot, and it's about 48 spaces. I am very concerned about the possibility of cutting undisturbed trees to the south of that lot where there are maple trees, where we used to tap maple for Little Stony Point, and to build a concrete or blacktop parking lot in an area right now that is natural habitat. And that would add to the suburbanization and concretization of Cold Spring. And then you'd have 98 parking spots at the end of Fair Street and 9D, and how would you deal with 100 parking spaces in that scenario? Besides the fact that it could disturb habitat for the cerulean warblers. So, there's a lot of wildlife concerns, but when you start cutting down trees and making more trails, you never quite know what damage you're going to be doing, and I'm concerned about that.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Susan Peel, and I live at 23 Fair Street. And
Please stay by the microphone.
sure, sorry. This project and its review has already been segmented 2 times with 2 separate lead agencies. One section has already gone through. That's the Breakneck Bridge and Corridor, or connector. And it went through a couple of different agencies as well, the DEC as well as the Army Corps of Engineers. And many of us were very concerned about it and wrote letters to these agencies saying, these are our concerns, these are our concerns. The project went through the DEC seemingly easily. When it came to time to the Army Corps of Engineers, who we understood were the stricter environmental shepherds or stewards, there was this response. We received the pre-construction notification for NWP 14 for the Breakneck Ridge Trail on April 5th, 2023. Due to my excessive workload, I was unable to provide a written determination within 45 days of its submission. In accordance with the current nationwide general permit regulations, Federal Register dated December 27, 2021, pages 73522 to 73583, if the Corps of Engineers District does not respond to a pre-construction notification within 45 days of receipt, then the applicant may proceed with the project as proposed. That means that the applicant must perform the work as proposed in the pre-construction notification. If you have any questions, let me know. Brian. So we are tremendously concerned, and specifically when these agencies that are supposed to have our backs are out to lunch. So I really appreciate that you are given the time and the concern that you are. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody else interested in making a comment?
Did you say, Jonathan, did you say there was affiliation to the planner and HHFT?
Our current town planner is AKRF, and they work predominantly with the planning board, and they are the planner on the trail.
But we're retaining.
But we have retained a different planner, because it's a conflict of interest. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't make that clear. We have any other?
That's who we would be discussing, meeting with
Yes.
for the memo creation.
Yeah,
It's Tim Miller Associates.
because they'll bring in additional expertise in terms of environment, and with specific niches within that, as well as traffic and engineering as needed.
Isn't Tim Miller the condo king? Very good.
Please.
Good evening, Dave Morandi, 39 East Mountain Road North. Thank you for taking this on. I think it should have came to you way earlier. I'm glad you're there now. It's not too late, never too late, I guess. I think one of the main concerns we have is traffic. If we have to, if I have to narrow it down tonight to one specific topic. All the parking is north of Cold Spring, but yet they say that's not going to be a problem for Cold Spring. They say 75% of all the new visitation will come by vehicle. So that means 75% of that number will be driving through Cold Spring. They're not going to stop. I don't know what they have planned for the south of here. I know they have some proposals that are very vague for mitigating the problem in the DGIS. But so all the traffic that they themselves say is coming will be going to parking, which is north of the village, and all of those cars will be that are visiting the trail, and they will be visiting the boardwalk section, make no doubt about that. They're not going to go north. Right now, north from Beacon to Breakneck Mountain is pretty much already intact. You can go there right now. You can go to Dennings Point. You can hike down there. You can go to Long Dock Park. So there's already access, a lot of access to the river, which they say there isn't, and that somehow this is finally going to, bring us to the river. So that's another fallacy that they like to promote. But basically, the traffic and living in Cold Spring my whole life, and many of you witnessed, and as you've stated before, it's one road, it's 9D. On weekends, it gets incredibly congested. People don't go out. And this is just going to drive more people there. The people, they are also those that say, this is already here, it's already there, like, let's just, roll with it or whatever, but it's not already here. The people that are coming are people that aren't you know, that hiking isn't their bag. They're not coming for that. They're not coming to kind of visit the main street in Cold Spring. They'll be coming to see an attraction, which is a boardwalk running 2 miles along the river. And so it's a new group of folks that'll be visiting, and all for one purpose, and they're all going to want to be getting on that trail either in Cold Spring or at Little Stony Point. They're not going to go to a plateau at Dutchess Manor and somehow get down to the trails. So I'd ask you to really take a look at where the parking is, where they have that scheduled, where they want to do that, and how the people, you know, the shuttle system, obviously, that's not going to work. I mean, people, if you go to ShopRite or something, you circle around the front. You try to get close or whatever to a parking spot or wherever you're going shopping. If it's in Cold Spring, you want to get as close as you can to like the store you want to go to. And people are going to just do that. That's the way people react and act. And they're going to want to get as close as they can. And they're going to drive down to Cold Spring. They're going to drive down Main Street and try to get on the Dockside Park. And also, after they're done hiking, this isn't really a long hike if you just take the boardwalk. It's like a mile. You know, people aren't going to go the whole 2 miles or come back. And they're going to want to eat somewhere. They're going to want to go somewhere. And they're not just going to get into a car or a shuttle and then go back, you know, drive an hour and a half back to New Jersey or to Westchester. They're going to come here and they're going to want to enjoy a restaurant or something on Main Street, which, you know, may be good, but for, you know, a lot of the vendors, but it's also maybe an overload. You know, there's only so many people you can serve at one time. And during the fall especially, we're at a max of that. So thank you for your time. I'm rambling a bit. There's a lot, you know, if you want to discuss 700 pages, it's not easy to break it down into like a few comments tonight. But I am glad that you guys are working on that and you know, interested in it. And I think there's a lot to be looked into, especially, you know, in your purview. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else tonight?
This is definitely not one of the major points, but you said.
Could you tell us who you are?
Oh, I'm
for the
sorry, I'm
record?
Sheila Roush. I live on Lane Gate Road in Cold Spring.
By the microphone, please. Sorry. Thank you.
So this is maybe a small point, but I just got really intrigued with it. At the end of the Southern Shoreline Trail, it just kind of peters out in the DGEIS, but it actually ends right where it meets the bridge that we don't know anything about because it's already been approved, the Breakneck Connector Bridge. And it ends with something called the Lower Overlook, which seems to be right at Breakneck. Right now, there's a lot of vegetation at Breakneck. Nothing's happened there since 1932 when the road tunnel was built. And there used to be a road, but it was a little road. And it's just been nature since then. And why did I get so nervous? God. So all that vegetation will be removed, and they're putting up what seems like a very big concrete set of stairs, like they have on the Brooklyn waterfront. It's a very in thing to do now, linear parks. But we don't know much about it, but it's a huge thing. And it is attached to Breakneck Mountain, which is an iconic mountain and a very important part of what we all care about. So, I mean, I keep thinking of Don Nice's paintings of the two mountains at the end of the Hudson Highlands. That profile has changed forever with this thing, I think, but there's really little about it in this document. It says to refer, there's a footnote that says to refer to one of their drawings in the master plan. And that is just pure, I mean, it looks like it's even in a different state. And it shows a cove instead of, this Breakneck makes a kind of promontory. It shows the absolute opposite of that configuration. And so it's not useful. But I think it's important. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments? Well, I encourage everybody to keep a discourse with us. If you like, present written comments to us. And with that, do we have any other unfinished business? I don't believe we do.
I've good.
Minutes.
No, the minutes, since I haven't reviewed them, I told Cheryl, let's not even talk about it. I've been focusing on this. We'll do it next time.
I have a brief positive stormwater update. The town was awarded a $75,000 grant to map our stormwater infrastructure in our MS4 community near Continental Village. So that's a positive.
Congratulations, yes. I'm sure you were a big part of that.
I just want to come back and say, can we set a date on this, I think, so that I know when I need to get things.
Well, what would work for you? I'm sorry that you had to stay for that. You could have interrupted.
Now I'm educated. Yeah.
How long is it gonna take you to stake it? Figuring that we're.
Well, the other thing is, you know, like where the septic is shown isn't necessarily where it'll be built. That's a septic location that was approved in another subdivision. Someone could decide to build a 2-bedroom house in a different location with a smaller septic. So you're going to comment on something that isn't being asked to be approved.
My point in that and bringing it up with the board is we need a frame of reference to look at. I'm more interested in the regulated resources on the property and providing essentially any sort of information moving forward to the planning board that would show that we've done our due diligence, we've looked at what was provided on the site plan that you're showing us, and we concur with it at its current state. So you are showing, this has come up on multiple other lot line adjustments. This is like a standard practice for us.
I mean, it is, those are from an approved subdivision, so it's.
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you really just need me,
We don't even know when those delineations were done. I mean, do we have their?
Obviously, yeah.
They're not stamped. It's,
no,
right,
yeah, it's old,
yeah.
yeah. But again, if someone were to build on that lot, they would have to delineate the wetlands and put a septic where it's an acceptable spot. So you're gonna look at an area that may never have a septic.
Understood.
Okay. All right, so I just want to know what date you want to do it. I can get it by the end of the week.
What are we, best on a weekend?
Anything's good for me.
So,
Well, do you want us to come with you? Do you
I
want-
think somebody,
Yeah,
a
yeah, okay.
representative, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
should be
so
there.
if we
So
pick
we,
a date,
so, I mean, do you want to do it as soon as next weekend?
well, you know, the planning board
weather,
meeting is
but-
on Thursday, so we're beyond this planning board meeting, but we would like the comments back to the planning board
So we'll
as soon as possible.
We'll do it before the next meeting.
Well, the next planning board, is it this Thursday or the
It's
following?
this
Thursday?
Thursday.
It's Thursday.
Yeah.
February
So-
meeting.
Yeah, so, as soon as possible, but it really doesn't have to be this weekend. But, we're getting to the
I mean,
point
I-
where it
I
could
have no
snow any
problem.
day.
Right, I don't think so. I have no problem. I will send out tomorrow, or at worst Thursday morning, to the chair, Neil Zuckerman, to let us know we've reviewed this. We'd like to have a site visit to do due diligence, but we don't believe at this moment it's necessarily going to be problematic doing a lot line adjustment.
Okay, all right, definitely, so this weekend is what the,
Can we typically we coordinate this.
Yeah,
Via
why don't you
email.
coordinate
for
with Cheryl?
email, through
Yeah,
email?
yeah.
Okay, that's
sure.
fine. Do you have to notice? You have to notice?
No, no,
Okay.
we don't
All right.
notice.
All right, then I'll talk to Cheryl during the week.
Okay.
All right, thank
Thank
you,
you.
guys.
Hey, my name is Susan Coleman. I live in Garrison. I don't know if this is in your ballpark or not, and I'm kind of new to even thinking about this whole Fjord massive thing. But it does strike me, particularly what's going on in the world, that I heard today in listening to some of the comments, there's really no assessment for carbon footprint happening as far as I can have heard. And I was thinking that that might be something you really want to be thinking about, because what kind of major impact that would have, I mean, I don't know. But it's obviously looking at LA, thinking about what's happening on the planet, the fact that we've gone over 1.6 degrees Celsius. And this is a huge amount of concrete. To me, sometimes I think an opportunity cost that is ridiculous given what's happening on the planet. This is not where we should be putting our focus and time, given that we are a very conservation-minded community. So I don't know, that's what struck me as one of the largest concerns about this whole project. And I don't know if the Conservation Board, well, you're about conservation, you know? Nothing's going to kill nature more than our temperatures rising. So thanks.
Thank you. You have anything else, ladies and gentlemen? I would then, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn our meeting.
I make that motion.
Second. All in favor?
I
Thank you, everybody.